Dealing with a touchy subject, honestly, I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. I don't know about you, but I, for one, am getting more than a little disturbed, more than a little fed up with the issue of murdered and missing Aboriginal women being used as a political tool to beat up on Canada as a whole, to paint the country as racist, to say that this is happening because the government and society don't care. That's an idea not borne by the facts at all. Now, let me say off the top that one murder is one too many, regardless of race, and missing women, I can't begin to fathom what their families are going through. It must be horrific. But the idea that murdered and missing Aboriginal women is an issue not being taken seriously by leadership in this country isn't borne by facts. The RCMP's own report on the issue showed that the clear rate, the solved case rate for murdered and missing Aboriginal women was at about 90%. That's right, 90%. And there's little difference between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal victims. Now, in this latest letter sent by RCMP Commissioner Bob Paulson, backing up statements made by Aboriginal Affairs Minister Bernard Valcourt that the majority of offenders are Aboriginal themselves, well, Paulson shares a couple of other facts. Let me get to those off the top. He says that, murdered and Aboriginal women were killed by a spouse, partner, or intimate relation in 62% of cases. Non-Aboriginal murdered women were killed by a spouse, partner, or intimate relation in 74% of cases. So there's more Aboriginal women who are killed by people that aren't an intimate partner. That much is true. But does that mean that they're not Aboriginal themselves? Because what Paulson cited was not just a stat he made up. Let me show you from the letter. He said, as for ethnicity, after going over consolidated data from more than 300 police agencies, 70% of cases, the offender was of Aboriginal origin. In 25%, the offender was of non-Aboriginal origin. And in 5% of cases, they were unknown. It shouldn't be shocking that the majority of Aboriginal women are going to be murdered by an Aboriginal man, or at least an Aboriginal offender. We'll assume that they're men. Stats Canada shows that just 16% of homicides in 2012 were carried out by someone that the victim did not know. That means 84% the victim knew the person that killed them. This is the type of stat that is shown time and again around the world in civilized societies. Why are Native leaders then reacting like this, the way they did on Aboriginal People's Television Network, to this latest bit of information from Paulson?
Spinning the issue. It's the government attempting to spin the issue so that, once again, all Indigenous problems are our problems. It's all our own fault. So I don't think that it's going to have a big impact on it.
When Bernard Valcourt made the statement that 70% of offenders were of Aboriginal origin, they demanded to see the facts. Now that Bob Paulson's laid it out on the line, they don't like it. What do you imagine would happen if an actual national inquiry, a public inquiry, was held, and we found out that this epidemic that they claim is happening isn't happening because Canada's a racist country filled with people that hate and want to murder Aboriginal women, but because that, like the rest of the country, they're often killed by people they know? I'm not sure that a national inquiry into a phenomenon that has the same clearance rate as non-Aboriginal murders is the right way to go. There are lots of problems on reserves. Picking at an old and ongoing festering wound isn't going to help anyone. And in the meantime, I think it's best that we stop with this narrative that all of this is happening because Canada is simply a racist country. It's not. End of story.